words of prayer. Now, let us dive into our core curriculum. It is my distinct honor to introduce our lecturer. Dr. Julius Malicdem is a distinguished leader, educator, and licensed electronic and communication engineer. With over 30 years of dedicated service, he currently serves as the Vice-Continental Director and Secretary General of FFWPU-EDU Asia-Pacific. He served as a national leader of FFWPU Philippines for nearly a decade and led the Blessed Family Association. As a pioneer for the second generation, he served as the principal of Sanhua International Academy and chairman of the board of IPLC Philippines. He has spearheaded the high-level international summit across Cambodia, Palau, and Nepal. He's holding a master's in business. He was also 2004 national champion in proto speech for Toastmasters International. As a Cheonbo victor and a multi-time recipient of the True Parents Award, Dr. Malicdem brings both spiritual depths and technical precision to his work. Today, he presents part 2 of church management and growth strategy, providing you with the practical tools to revitalize your local ministry. Before he starts his lecture, I just want to remind you, look at your Zoom, and on the top, you will see tabs in different languages. Choose your preferred language, okay? You will see now, there will be a different languages of PowerPoint presentation, which Dr. Malicdem is going to present. Okay, I hope you remember it. All right, let us give a warm global welcome to Dr. Malicdem. Dr. Malicdem, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Mr. Moon Myung-ho. Thank you to all. I'm sharing now the English PPT, so now also the PowerPoint in other languages. So please choose the language that you will be using for the PPT before we start. So I hope it's okay now, brothers and sisters. Okay, so good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all our dear leaders, pastors, brothers and sisters. How are you today? So thank you so much for this opportunity to meet you all in this continuing education session on practical ministry. So my gratitude, of course, to the World Mission Headquarters for organizing this program. As you remember, last session, the focus of Professor Gill's presentation was on growth strategy, particularly centering on Hyojong teams and formation of Cheonbo Family Church. So this time, I will be focusing more on the more practical aspect of our church leadership, which is church management. So the topic which I will be sharing as of this time is entitled Church Management Checkpoints, Building Healthy, Sustainable, and Growing Church. So we all know that we are now in the era of settlement, right? So that means we have to prepare our churches to be able to have a stable future, especially for our families and for our communities to grow, especially realizing substantial Cheon Il Guk. So this presentation aims to encourage our church leaders and pastors about the importance of church management as a necessary element for settling down a healthy and thriving church. Aju? So let us now begin. Let me share with you, this is a Forbes article that came out ranking the top 9 toughest leadership roles. And I was surprised that corporate CEO is just ranked number 9. But more surprising, their leaders, is that where does the role of church pastor or leader falls? It's, according to this article, it is ranked number 5. So that is why I really wanted to thank and congratulate all our dear, wonderful pastors and leaders for taking on this challenging mission. Aju? So when we talk about church management, there are, we can say like there are, okay, sorry, this is going. Okay. So there are 10 core duties of a pastor. So you can see here, for example, preaching and teaching, of course, counseling, conducting worship services, visitation of members, conflict resolution, and also providing spiritual leadership, administration, community outreach, witnessing or discipleship, and of course, prayer. But in this presentation, let us focus more on the leader's role when it comes to church administration or church management. Okay? So first, let us answer this question. Why church management matters? Because when leaders or when people hear church management or church administration, most of the time the tendency is that we skip over it. Maybe because it sounds so corporate or so structural or even unspiritual, right? But let's be honest, even the early church needed structure and system to function well. For example, this is in the Bible, in the Acts of the Apostles, chapter 6, we can read, "It is unacceptable for us to neglect the word of God in order to wait on tables. Therefore, brothers, select from among you 7 men confirmed to be full of the Spirit and wisdom. We will assign this responsibility to them and will devote ourselves to prayer and to the ministry of the word." So, brothers and sisters, when the apostles faced a crisis, widows were being neglected that time in daily distribution. So the solution was not to pray harder only. Okay? So they prayed, of course, but they also appointed capable leaders to manage operations. In short, administration protects the mission. Aju? So therefore, dear leaders, church management supports church revival. In fact, it is like, a skeleton that allows the body to stand upright. So good church management supports our community revival. So without church management, as you can see here, tendency is that the vision of the church leaks or is forgotten or ignored. And also, tendency is that resources will be neglected or misused or even underused. And also there's a tendency for leaders to be burned out. And then church growth becomes chaotic and unsustainable. I remember there's one church leader in the Philippines during one of our meetings, and then he said, if we don't have a clear system of education and managing our members, then more members means more problems. And surely we don't want that to happen, right? So why healthy church management is so important? So we can say that if there is a healthy church management, ministry is well supported, and then members are properly cared for. Leaders can also focus more on their calling as a minister, and then the church can also survive transitions like leadership change. So if ministry is like the heart, then management is like, the circulatory system. And, without circulation, we know what will happen, right? So in terms of church management, in a nutshell, the elements of church management, actually so many. So I just put here some few of the aspects of church management, which is basically, this is our intentional stewardship, taking care of people, taking care of resources and systems in order to support and fulfill our mission. So it includes, for example, here, governance and leadership structure, strategic planning, financial management, volunteer systems, communication flow, membership engagement, facility management, risk management. But because of time constraints, I will be touching more on the following: governance and leadership structure, and then a little bit on strategic planning, also on volunteer systems, communication flow, and membership data engagement. Okay, so let us start first with governance and leadership structure. So this is one of the very important element in church management. So let us read. These are actually from true parents' words related to the importance of a church base or ministry structure. And I would like to read: a leader needs a base for his or her activities. Unless that base is stronger than the places where activities are carried out, he or she cannot prosper. When you look at a tree, its branches sprout and extend from the trunk. The trunk is bigger than the branches. Similarly, without the base of operations, a ministry cannot grow. Church leaders need to understand this. Aju? So this means, dear leaders, that having a clear structure starts with defining a strong foundation of leadership base. Just like nucleus, or in most cases in our churches, we call it Trinity, right? Depending on the church size. So it could be the Trinity of the church pastor, it could be the mother figure or a finance leader, and the secretary or the administration or general affairs staff. So there must be also clarity on the operations. How do you designate roles, clear roles, and POR, portions of responsibilities, with clear reporting lines? Even there's a need for job descriptions, so to eliminate confusion. So in short, we need a base, a foundational structure, as True Parents said. Without a base of operations, a ministry cannot grow. So let us continue. So management must answer these three key questions. Number one, are we aligned with our mission? Number two, are we stewarding or using properly our resources? Number three, are we building something that will last beyond our generation? So growth without system leads to collapse. So on the other hand, if we have system, but without spiritual vitality, then also problem, right? That will lead only to like bureaucracy. So that is why we need both. So as you can see here, spirit plus structure, just like mind and body united in order to have healthy church growth. Aju? So in terms of establishing church management system, it is good to understand the importance of having church vision and mission. Okay? So we can look at our vision and mission in two dimensions. So one is internal, or we can say like spiritual or cultural. And the other one here is external, which is more on the structure and the operation. So basically, vision and mission, your church core values, your core strategies, and your plans. These are like in the internal dimension of church management system. So when we look at external management system, so as you can see here, so this includes, for example, church council or church board, and then the head pastor or church leader, the administrative team, pastoral team, home group leaders, volunteer teams, witnessing teams, worship service team, membership care team. So this internal aspect should provide providential direction to what the organization will do. While this organization, this external here, will be the one that will implement and act and then build the substantial foundation in order to realize the vision and the mission. So moving forward, let us understand why management drives growth. So as you can see here, through good management system, we can clarify our vision. And then we can also take care of members and guests. And we can also build trust and transparency and also multiply owners of the providence through a leadership pipeline. So let's deal with this one by one. First is clarity of vision. Thriving churches, their leaders, clearly define who they are for, and what they are trying to accomplish. So that should be very clear. So that means everything that we do should be motivated by how are we realizing Heavenly Parents and True Parents' vision? How are we achieving our mission as representatives of True Parents? So growth happens when people know where they are going, and what will be their next step. So this means having a strategic mindset, which we will discuss on later on. Second one is assimilation. So management system should be helping in the step-by-step assimilation or integration of newcomers or guests into our community. So many churches lose growth because guests come and go. So many guests, newcomers, do not feel welcome, or they feel isolated. So that's why, in order for our church to thrive, we need to have system to track first-time guests, for example, and then importance also of spiritual parents, and then even putting up guest cards. So they need to have a clear follow-up system also. And then, we need to have newcomer orientation, or sometimes we call this welcoming ceremony for new members. Normally, we can do this as part of the worship service or the Sunday service, officially recognizing and welcoming our new members. And then it will be helpful also to assign mentors or activate their spiritual parents and connect them to appropriate small groups or home groups, like, for example, working youth group, young family group, or students group, mothers group, etc. So let us remember, brothers and sisters, that people do not stay because of buildings or facilities. They stay because they feel welcome. They feel they belong. So it means we have to invest on relationships. So through good financial management system, our church, your church, can also build trust, transparency, and accountability. We know that trust fuels generosity. We call it the joy of giving. So if you remember during our session 2, this was the main topic about the joy of giving. So churches can build trust and be transparent through publishing financial reports, and then also using budgeting systems, separate financial controls. So not only one person controlling, and then conduct audits also. Because, as you know, we have to strive to build credibility because sustainability depends on trust. Do you think so? Do you agree? Sustainability builds trust. Also, through human resource management, which is part of church management, we can establish leadership development pipelines, right? So, thriving churches or growing churches do not rely on one charismatic leader. Okay, for example, many churches grew, even becoming mega churches, through what we call cell group systems, led by trained lay leaders. So leadership was, not confined to one person. Leadership was multiplied, not centralized. So this was also emphasized by Professor Gill uh, last time during the last session about the importance of developing Cheonbo family churches, right? To multiply leaders in the mission field. So we have to understand that growth is limited by leadership capacity. So we have to invest in training new leaders and we have to encourage and empower many pastors in the mission field. Aju? Now I would like to share some practical strategies for churches to grow and thrive. First, there is a need for clear organizational structure. So, please ask this question to you, to yourself. Do we have an organizational structure? So, if the answer is yes, next question is that structure is still updated or is it still functional? Even the smallest congregation benefits from having clearly defined roles. So whether paid staff or faithful volunteers, everyone deserves to know what is their mission and how they can contribute, right? So again, there should be clear reporting lines, written job descriptions, even for volunteers, because ambiguity creates conflict and clarity creates peace. Aju? So having clear organizational structure also must include clear reporting lines. So that means this is knowing who is accountable to whom. If there is a clear reporting line, then there will also be effective decision making, and then especially when challenges arise, this will prevent, like overlapping or, duplication of effort. And then consequently, this will build trust in our organization, in our church. Also, clear organizational structure means written job descriptions. I know this is one of the difficulties of many of our churches when we assign one leader and then they start to ask, what will be my mission? So that's why we need also to have this written job descriptions, even for volunteers. So there should be what? Clarity on expectations, also well-defined and understood POR or portions of responsibilities, and also there should be a way to measure the performance outcomes. Okay? So moving forward, having a clear organizational structure, also you need to establish your leadership team. This is very important for any church leader, especially if you are leading a big church community, right? So you need to establish your leadership team. Do you have it already? So if not, then this is high time for you to create one. So every growing church anchors its vision in a core leadership team, a trusted group, like that carries responsibility together and accomplish the mission collectively. So for example, here, like board of directors or church board, executive committee, or strategic team or strategic committee, whatever you call it, but you need to have that leadership team. So in this leadership team, there should be shared vision, so important. There should be collective wisdom, and also there should be, they need to have mutual responsibility and accountability. So that means, dear leaders, as a church pastor, you are not alone. Aju, you are not alone. So true parents actually emphasize about the formation of a leadership team to support the church leaders. Amazingly, so true parents said like this: church leaders need to bring 3 men and 3 women into total unity to support the church. When they all act as one, they can become the greatest nucleus for the development of the church. They need to maintain that structure for the sake of the church activities. When each of the 6 people in that structure forms a trinity with 3 other people, they will naturally become a group of 24 people. With the church leader as their subject, they become inseparable. So the amount of devotion the church leader offers for those people determines how much they, in turn, offer devotion for the leader. Aju? So, true parents are talking here about forming a leadership team. Next one is having a strategic planning cycle. So for the church to continually develop and thrive, strategic plans should be made. So strategic planning should be periodically conducted, especially for cases like one nation, one church. You know, we have those cases, right? So only one church. Or even for small churches, this is also very important. So strategic planning process, as you can see here in this diagram, is like a cycle. It's like a cycle. So please take time to schedule this together with your leadership team, with your core group, with your pastors and representatives. So it starts with clarifying your vision and mission. So if you don't have yet written vision and mission, so there is a correct process to create this altogether. And then also important is clearly analyzing. So you can see here number 2, clearly analyzing your current situation. We call this environmental scanning. So you conduct, for example, SWOT analysis, right? Like what is the strength of your church? What are the weaknesses of your church or lacking points? And then what are the opportunities? What are the threats which are considered external factors beyond the church control, but they can directly affect the direction and the progress of your church? So, and then after that, you have to determine the main critical issues or the key issues, critical issues. And by consolidating all your weaknesses into 3 or 4 critical issues. And then based on those critical issues, you formulate the goals in order to address those issues. So now once you have formulated your goals, then you need to start writing strategic objectives, how to support your goals. Okay? So normally we use the SMART concept of formulating objectives. SMART, which means it should be, when we think of objectives, then it should be specific, measurable, it should be achievable, it should be realistic, and then time bound. Okay, so that's formulating your objectives. And then after that, you start writing down your action steps to support and to accomplish your objectives. But these action steps should also have timeline, POR, who is responsible, and even put budget. And then after that, you implement, you monitor the results, and then you revise if necessary, and then you go back to your vision and mission. So please take note that healthy churches operate with rhythm, meaning predetermined schedules and targets. So there should be annual vision planning, and then Also, there should be quarterly, like review meetings to assess the progress. And then you need to have measurable action goals. So what does it mean? So we need to move from vague goals to measurable goals. Example, instead of saying we want to grow or we want to increase members, better you say in a measurable way. For example, increase weekly worship attendance by 20%, increase the number of tithing members to 10%, increase regular membership by 30%. Because you cannot manage what you do not measure. So church management application, for example, the one provided to us by the World Mission Headquarters, these are very valuable tools for tracking real status and thereby set measurable goals. Aju? Next one, volunteer strategy. So thriving churches need to develop volunteer management system because church pastors cannot do everything by themselves. I think many of you agree, right? So as you can see in this caricature here, even Moses was given an advice by his father-in-law because he was trying to do many things by himself and thereby neglecting other important concerns. So he was advised to appoint capable elders, later on called judges, to help him do his job. So you can read that actually in Exodus chapter 18. So thriving churches recruit intentionally, share the vision for the church, and invite them to perform some specific roles. Also, there should be training. Training is needed, equipping them with some skills and providing resources. So you should also make sure to appreciate the volunteer teams publicly. Like for example, during worship service, and then recognize their efforts, their hard work. So this is so important. And then also you need to rotate responsibilities to prevent burnout. For example, if there's one youth volunteer who may have devoted years already in helping in children's Sunday school, then maybe it's time for her or him to be assigned, for example, in another team like youth ministry or maybe music ministry. So remember that volunteers are not free labor, but they are what? They are ministry partners. Aju? So if you don't have yet a volunteer team, I guess it is time to create one. So first you can start by conducting a community engagement survey to find out from your members who wanted to help in some areas of responsibility. So in what ministry they want to support. So this here is an example of a survey. It's an example of survey form that I shared with some churches in the Philippines to systematically start their volunteer teams. So after explaining to the members the importance of forming volunteer teams, you can let them fill up this form. Also, this can be done digitally, like in Google Forms. And then after that, then some of them might want to help, for example, in worship service preparation team or in choir music ministry team or education team, for example, helping as lecturers, or maybe they want to help as staff or coordinators during workshops, or some wanted to help in Sunday school for children or youth programs, right? So I'm sure, brothers and sisters, dear leaders, many of them wanted to be involved and contribute for the community. So we just need to empower them. Aju? Next one is a very important practice for the church to be healthy is strategic communication flow. You know, administrative breakdown often begins in communication. So when messages are unclear, late, or inconsistent, church culture becomes, like reactive instead of being proactive. However, when communication is, like chaotic, culture becomes reactive. So I recommend the following. Number one, you need to have weekly leadership meetings, okay? To keep the leadership team and key staff informed. So you can schedule that once a week. And then you need also written minutes or documentation for follow-up purpose, record-keeping purpose. And then you need to share calendars, especially for the leadership team to prevent scheduling overlap. And then you need to have what? Standard announcement channels. It is so important, like using, for example, chat groups or group emails, etc. Right? So strategic communication flow. Now let's talk about reality. What if my church, my congregation is small? Or in cases like pioneering church, right? Let's say you have a church membership of 50 people or less. Okay? So not every church has 30 staff members. Many have just one pastor, 3 faithful elders or blessed families, and then around 10 committed volunteers. That's it. Plus a building that leaks when it rains. Okay? So how do we manage if we only have this small church? Number one, simplify. You need to simplify your structure. Small churches should focus on 3 to 5 ministries only. Okay? Something that is manageable. And then eliminate low impact programs. Also avoid overcommitting, meaning trying to do many things at the same time, right? So you need to do fewer things well. Number two, empower. You need to empower your lay leaders, like for example, elder, blessed family members. In a small church, you have to train, for example, one person to oversee hospitality during worship service, welcoming members, right? And then somebody can help also in finance. You can raise up somebody who can support more in coordination and witnessing activities. So you need to empower. And then lastly, you need to set your priorities. You have to prioritize depth over numbers. So instead of conducting, for example, a workshop for 30 or let's say 40 participants at a time, wherein you will be needing a lot of staff, why not hold small groups like one-to-one witnessing and then education, right? And then also you need to have target witnessing contacts that would entail less resources. So some people already you know, or relatives of members. And then prioritize building close personal relationships with members and witnessing contacts. Also, we need to utilize microsystems for small churches. Even simple tools work. For example, Google Sheets for tracking membership, and then also messaging groups for coordination, and then sharing digital calendars. These are very simple tools. And then simple visitor or guest cards. I'm sure this is still very, very important, having this card for our guests for follow-up and education, right? So administration does not require expensive software. It requires consistency. And also very important, if you have a small church, you need to rotate responsibilities to prevent burnout. So set term limits for key roles, rotate ministry assignments annually, and then also encourage team leadership instead of solo leadership. Because, as you know, burnout leaders are the number one threat to small church sustainability. Correct? Yeah. So, number 7, you need to build community depth over numerical growth. Even small churches can thrive first and foremost by strong pastoral care. So in the future practical ministry sessions, we will discuss more about pastoral care. So we need to have personal, individual connection with our members, pastoral care, and also intergenerational bonding. Like for example, developing this 3-generation church, right? And then community outreach, creating some positive presence in the community where your center or where your church is. And then you need to have intentional witnessing or discipleship. That means you do not just witness randomly. So you need to have targeted witnessing targets or contacts, like relatives of members or neighbors or some people you already know. And then also, numerical size does not equal health. So normally we think, oh, we have big membership, then we are a healthy church, but it's not. Numerical size does not equal health, but it is faithfulness that builds long-term credibility and stability. And then finally, number 8, most important also why we need proper church management is to ensure sustainability for the future. Thinking beyond the present, but building legacy for the sake of the future, right? So church management ensures leadership succession, defined transition plans, also financial continuity, which includes having reserves for emergency situations. We need to have documented policies, having clear and written policies, and then institutional memory, which means presenting or preserving historical records. So, dear leaders, let us ask these questions. For example, if the senior pastor leaves tomorrow, what happens? Or if the tithing and donation drops to 30%, do we have reserves or savings to be used? If conflict arises, do we have governance policies? Do we keep and take care of historical records in our church? So sustainability is spiritual leadership. Church leadership is spiritual leadership. So we are not building monument, but we are building legacy for the future. So again, let us clearly understand that church management is not about control. It is about what? Stewardship. The churches that thrive in this generation will be those that marry or combine spiritual fire with strategic structure, and then empower leaders beyond the church building or center. So just like our topic last session, right? Building church in our Cheonbo families, and then practice transparency and accountability, and then we have to think long term. Management systems should be resilient, credible, and mission ready. So let me share with you a summary of the church management checklist for your reference only. So depending on your church size and situation, you can consider studying this checklist here to guide you in strengthening your churches. So this is a comprehensive practical guide for church leaders and administrators to assess organizational health, ensure accountability, and build a thriving or growing ministry. So because of time, I will not explain one by one, but anyway, this material is already shared to you. So for example, church management checklist categories: spiritual health and identity, leadership and governance, financial stewardship, membership care, witnessing and education, and then also ministry operations, outreach and witnessing, and then communication and systems, and then metrics and evaluation. So this is already shared. So I hope you can use this as a reference to check what do you have and then what you need also to focus on. So, brothers and sisters, dear leaders, as I come to the conclusion of this presentation, our question should not be, are we big enough to be needing these systems? The real question that we should ask should be, are we disciplined enough to build the systems that will last for the firm settlement of Cheon Il Guk? Because growth without management collapses, and vision without structure easily evaporates. But when church management serves the mission, the church becomes resilient, credible, and ready for the future. So let us build churches that are spiritually alive, Aju, but not only spiritually alive, but also administratively sound and sustainable for the generations to come. Aju? So thank you so much, my dear brothers and sisters, dear leaders, for staying with me in this presentation. And I am praying for more breakthroughs and victories in your churches amid these very challenging times. Thank you very much, Sungmi.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Malicdem. Thank you. Wow. It was amazing, right? I hope you could really find some key points which you can use in your ministry. Let's show our appreciation in a chat for, Dr. Malicdem. Send him your love, send him everything. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Malicdem. Thank you. Thank you so much. Welcome back. I can see from your smile that the brainstorming was productive, right? I hope.
Sure.
There is immense power when we think as one global family, right? All right. Now is I can say maybe one of the best part of our lectures, which is question and answer. You can ask your question. Okay, this is your chance to get specific with our special expert, whether it is a question on leadership structure or a growth hurdle you facing. We want to hear from you. To ensure we hear from as many as possible, please keep your questions brief and go straight to the point. Okay? Please, let us go to the question. Yes, our brother Rafael is always the first. I hope they try to be like him, to be the first. Brother Rafael, go on.
Thank you so much. Reverend Julius, for this great presentation. So it's very comprehensive, very complete, and I would love to implement everything. We already implementing certain things. So my question is, the challenge that we face is sometimes it's not just about maintaining the system, but actually creating the system initially, which really, I'm sure you know, takes a lot of time when the system is not in place. So how to manage between actually continuing to do our activities and building a structure that actually helps us to manage well the activities and the membership, because it seems like sometimes it's difficult dilemma to manage the structure to manage and maintain and the actual activities that we want to do.
Thank you, Brother Rafael. Yeah, this is a very common dilemma of any church pastor or leader, especially if your congregation, your community is very demanding. They want a lot of things, they want to do many things, and by that is good. That means they are fully engaged. So my recommendation is proper time management. For example, if you set a proper time of the year to conduct the strategic planning, which is basically normally at the start of the year.
This meeting is being recorded.
Then you only have to do that one time. So that means you have to set aside some activities just to focus. Maybe you can find time for your leadership team, go out somewhere, and then where you can focus for 2 days or even 3 days, and then come up with that 1-year plan, strategic plan. And then after that, then you can go back with the implementation of some activities. So I think it's more on prioritizing. So setting aside some activities and then focusing on some priorities first. And then another one is empowering other teams. So as a pastor, you don't have to do everything. So as I mentioned, if you have a reliable leadership team where they can do some ministries by themselves, then you can focus on other things as a pastor. So it's prioritizing and then empowering other team leaders to do other activities, which will not entail so much direct involvement from the senior pastor. So that's my recommendation.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Is there any other leader? Is there anything you wish to ask? It seems that everybody understood everything. Amazing.
Can I ask?
Yes, please.
Jan is from Latvia.
Yes, please. Please go ahead.
There was mentioned about job descriptions that they should be or have to be written. But how I, as a leader, can write job descriptions for myself? It's kind of a strange thing to do. Could you please explain who will do it for national leaders?
Normally, it should be done by the national headquarters, so the national leadership, and then just giving it to the local churches or centers. But also, actually, it helps if you, as a leader, you yourself write down also your job description, and then let other elders or central figures or somebody, your superior elder or leader, check also. So which job maybe you have failed to write. So it's also part of a workshop, writing job description. So normally, yeah, it's good for pastors to come out with their own list of mission or job and then describing what are your responsibilities. But then it should be, in the process where in the national leadership or national headquarters will supervise. I'm sure there are churches with already written job descriptions. So I think this can also very good resource later on for our local churches if this can be shared. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I hope you got your answer. There are some brothers in Portuguese languages, if I'm not wrong, asking to go back to the breakout room. The breakout room is over, and now you are directly with Dr. Malicdem. If you have any question, please ask him right now. Is there any question? Brothers and sisters, leaders, pastors, do you have any question?
May I ask one more question?
Okay, go ahead.
About international structure. So, in my case, in Latvia, we have our national organization, but legally we are not any. There is no legal agreement, anything that we are connected with the church in Korea or in Europe. So this is in terms of structure, we are kind of not really integrated. So how to make more like worldwide integrated system? Thank you.
Thank you, brother Chinese. Yeah, actually, this concern or this question actually maybe this can be one of the discussions with the World Mission Headquarters. Okay, so, but in terms of local situation, yeah, I think this is common situation of many of our churches in several nations where it looks like we are independent. Even the registration of our church or organization is registered independently in its church, I mean, in its nation, because they have different legal systems, right, or legal regulations to recognize or to register organizations. But then it can help also if we can have a worldwide, like integrated church structure, even internally, not for external purpose, so that that can become a basis even for local churches. So I think this is already somehow World Mission Headquarters looks like they're trying to organize even the categorization of churches now is being in place, and then even the this one what we're doing now is part of at least empowering and capacity building for pastors. So this is a good start. So still we need to work on worldwide structure in terms of our church that will include also local churches. Thank you, brother.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I hope you got your answer. There is a brother called Abraham or Abraham. He's asking, how can we be transparent in financial management if there is no trust?
Okay, how can we be transparent in finance or financial management if there's no trust? This is a situation of reversing the cause and effect. Normally, you need to start first building, having a transparent system. Then trust can be can come out, with members. So it's not the other way around. So that's why it starts with some kind of a system wherein members can feel, oh, now I because of this system, no matter who the leader is, I can trust what will happen. For example, for donations or how do we spend our money, resources. So that's why I think it should be building the system first, and then trust will follow. So it should be like that. It's not trust first, and then having the transparency later on. Is that okay?
Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you very much for all the questions and your beautiful answers, Dr. Malicdem. Please, everybody, give him a big round of applause. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for all your insight, everything. Really, it was a beautiful lecture and beautiful answers to all the questions. All right, we are going to the closing remarks to conclude our today's session. We are honored to welcome our precious Reverend Song Jung So. You know him. He's the man behind this education program. Dr. So is an amazing man. Please give him a big round of applause to give you his remarks.
사랑하는 전 세계
Yes, beloved pastors from around the world and dedicated public officials serving, leaders serving with utmost devotion on the front lines of the providence. Thank you so much for your hard work. Under the immense grace of Heavenly Parent and True Parents, we have successfully concluded all sessions of the 2026 first quarter online practical ministry education today. This first quarter education was a precious time for us to contemplate how the grand vision of substantial firm settlement of Cheon Il Guk is not a vague slogan, but a concrete reality that can take root in our local fields. In particular, the church management we addressed today is the circulatory system and skeleton that allows the heart of the church ministry to beat without ceasing. As Vice-Continental Director, Julius Malicdem emphasized, administration protects the mission. I ask you to engrave it in your hearts once more that the transparent finances, clear organizational structures, and sophisticated member management system we build are not merely administrative tasks. They represent the most scarce stewardship in protecting the precious flock entrusted to us by heaven. Respected pastors, this first quarter education is merely the beginning of our great journey. The practical ministry education does not end as a one-time event. We will continue to gather quarterly through June, September, and November. Every quarter, we will further sharpen each area of ministry, share one another's victory models, and collectively cultivate our capabilities as Cheon Il Guk pastors. I encourage you to apply the comprehensive management checklist, church management checklist learned today to your local fields this quarter. When we meet again in June, I hope we can joyfully testify to how these small practices has blossomed into seeds of change. Ministry is not the path of a lonely hero. We are fellow workers connected by a system and united by a vision. Heaven will never forget the tearful devotion and hard work you poured out in the field. As you return to your respective mission fields, ignite the flames of Holy Spirit upon the solid skeletal framework of church management you learned today. I earnestly pray that your churches become the hope of the world and a reliable legacy for future generations. Praying that the infinite blessing of Heavenly Parent and true parents be upon you and your family and churches, I hereby conclude all programs of the 2026 first quarter online practical ministry education. Let us meet again in June, having grown even further. Thank you very much. Let's be victorious.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. So. Thank you for your visionary roadmap and the encouraging words to close our session. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, this is the last part of the first quarter, as Dr. So mentioned. Before we sign off, there are 3 quick updates. Please listen carefully. First, we need your feedback and reflection. As we wrap up the final session of the first quarter, we want your input to help us prepare for a better section 2. Please scan QR code you can see on your screen, or use the link in the chat box to fill out our detailed feedback form. We need every single comment. Okay? Second, to put today's teaching into practice, we have prepared the church management checklist. Scan the QR code and click Make a Copy. Assess your ministry health across the different tabs. Once finished, email your sheet to the mission department. This is a very vital tool for your personal ministry assessment. All right. 3, as Dr. Saw mentioned, we will reconvene we will see you again in June for the second quarter. Our team will be worship and sermon featuring Reverend Nikki Abe. I'm sure you know him very well from Japan as our guest lecturer. Make your calendars, okay? I hope really to see you soon. We are going to miss you. I feel to really miss you so much. All right. To officially conclude our first quarter series, let us offer a final bow of gratitude to our beloved true parents. 차렷 천진 참부모님께 참배 바로. All right. Before you go, we need your beautiful face and your beautiful smile. Okay, turn on your cameras so we can have a beautiful picture. All right. all those brothers and sisters closing your camera, please turn on your cameras and smile. All right? Ready? Let us offer our hearts, our love, our joy, our beautiful smile. 아버지, 어머니, 사랑합니다. 감사합니다. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. I deeply hope every minute of your life be full of smile, 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 and you shine and dance every day with your husband or your wife and your children. Thank you. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your heart. See you on June. Okay? God bless you.
God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
God bless you.
Thank you very
Have a
much.
wonderful
Yeah,
week.
thank you so much.
Bye, ciao,
Thank
ciao.
you. God bless you from Africa.
Obrigada.
콩콩카. 콩콩카.
Thank you so much.
Obrigado, obrigado. Obrigado
Yeah.
pela turma do Brasil, nós estávamos assim.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Obrigada.
Yavi for your lecture.
Obrigado.
Tchau, tchau.
Muito obrigado. Tchau,
Thank
tchau.
Muito obrigado, que Deus bendiga a todos,
Muito
bendiciones a
obrigado.
todos.
Ciao, ciao.
Muito obrigado, turma do Brasil, nós estávamos assim. Yeah.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, 谢谢。
Merci. Bye bye. A bientôt.
Bye.